Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to NEWSROOM. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 16th of April 2024, and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. We'll begin with the Saudi Foreign Minister's visit to Pakistan. Of course, he's on a very important visit, along with a delegation that comprises the Saudi Minister for Water and Agriculture, Minister for Industry and Mineral Resources, the Deputy Minister for Investment, and the head of Saudi Special Committee, and senior officials from the Ministry of Energy and Saudi Fund for General Investment. They have met with our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif Sahab. They have met with our President Asif Ali Zardari Sahab, and there's also been a joint media stakeout between the two foreign ministers, in which different aspects of the bilateral relationship between Pakistan and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, along with different important issues, were highlighted. This visit is extremely important in the wake of the current geo-economic and geopolitical circumstances that Pakistan is engulfed in, and also the tensions in the Middle East. Also, Saudi Arabia's Assistant Defense Minister is arriving in Pakistan on an important visit as well. This will be a delegation that will be meeting with the Army Chief General Syed Asim Munir Sahab. This comprises the Saudi Arabia's Assistant Minister for Defense, Engineer Talal bin Abdullah Al Uttaibi. Joint defense projects and other defense issues between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia will also be discussed during this visit. This is going to be our first segment, the tangent of relations between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, and how important are these visits that are ongoing between the Kingdom and Pakistan as far as further enhancing and stabilizing regional relations as well as bilateral relations on different aspects and in different arenas, especially economy. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns day 193 of the Middle East situation and, of course, the Israel-Palestine conflict. Iran, of course, as we know, launched a barrage of missiles, over 30 land cruise missiles, more than 150 attack drones at Israel on Saturday, and of course most of these were thwarted. Nevertheless, there has been a very important message that has been sent by Iran in the escalation of this situation in the Middle East and what Israel is perpetrating toward Palestine. There has been an important United Nations Security Council meeting as well, in which both the sides, the Iranian and the Israeli side, also were at loggerheads as to their points of views, and of course the US and other important nations are also now urging for restraint as far as Israel is concerned. But will Israel urge restraint is the huge question mark, because as far as Palestine is concerned, the number of casualties continues on increasing. 33,843 Palestinians have been killed and around 76,575 have been wounded in Israeli attacks since the 7th of October last year, and 46 people have been killed, 110 injured in the past 24 hours alone. The escalation of tensions in the Middle East is a question that a lot of people, whether in the region, in Pakistan or in the West, have on their minds. What will happen? What are the possibilities? This will be part of our second segment. Then we are going to talk about Prince Harry, who of course we all know who he is, the younger son of King Charles III. They will not be allowed to appeal the downgrading of his personal security when he visits Britain. This has been ruled by a court yesterday. The youngest son of King Charles III took legal action after the British government had told him in the year 2020 that he would no longer be given the same degree of publicly funded protection when he is in the UK. But now that has been confirmed that he will no longer be given the same kind of security. As legal spokesperson for Harry has said that he will try to turn to the Court of Appeal to obtain justice, but he has lost his appeal to go forward against this decision. Finally, NASA is seeking cheaper and faster ways in order to bring Mars rocks to Earth. NASA said on Monday it was looking for these ways because the current expenses are too much and are not being allowed by those who are sponsoring NASA. China is making progress toward a simpler grab-and-go sample return mission to the Red Planet around 2030. And of course, according to state media, which this is going to make it the first nation to achieve this feat. The bottom line is that $11 billion is too expensive, and not returning samples till 2040 is unacceptably too long. This has been said by the US Space Agency's chief, Bill Nelson. But will China be the first to do it, or will the US? That will time will tell. This is the lineup for today's show, and let's begin with our first segment. The first segment concerns the relationship between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, and of course there is a very, very important visit of the Saudi Foreign Minister to Pakistan that is ongoing. The Saudi Foreign Minister, along with his delegation, has met with the Prime Minister of Pakistan as well as the President of Pakistan. There has been a joint media stakeout with our Foreign Minister as well, and of course important decisions are likely to be taken and of course a lot of important decisions are to be made as far as the tangent of relations between both the countries is concerned. We've been joined by Dr. Khaqan Najeeb. He is of course the former advisor to the Finance Ministry. Dr. Khaqan, thank you very much to have joined us. Always a pleasure to have you on board. I know I'm in safe hands when you are on the other end of the spectrum. Prime Minister Mohammed Shehbaz Sharif received the Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud, who is leading a high-power delegation on an official visit to Pakistan. He, of course, has underscored the significance accorded by Pakistan to its long-standing fraternal, economic and strategic relations with Saudi Arabia, and said both countries have always stood together at all times. The Prime Minister also stated that the visit of this delegation immediately after his visit that also occurred earlier this month as well was a manifestation of the strong commitment of both the countries to further strengthen their bilateral relations. How important is this visit from different perspectives? Let's talk geoeconomy.
Omar, good to see you after a while. So let me say something. Pakistan's visit is important because there is a delegation in Pakistan. It's an impressive delegation, number one. Number two, it's important because they're here not only to talk about any debt instruments to Pakistan, but as an investment opportunity, to judge the investment opportunity in Pakistan. For me, that's a very, very important narrative. Moving away from Pakistan's always discussion that we need this kind of debt, we need these deposits, to a fact that we need investment and we want investment. So instead of creating debt instruments towards Pakistan, the countries in the world must start thinking about Pakistan as a destination for investment, exports, employment, mines and minerals, agriculture productivity, so that their food security can be helped. In terms of Saudi Arabia, you have to remember they're rich in terms of money right now, good oil money, sovereign wealth fund is strong. They want to have a global presence, nothing like coming to Pakistan. On our side, of course, brownfield projects, which are the ones that we have already set up and are not doing well, whether it's PIA, airports, PSO, OGDCL. We have a whole menu to offer there, which I'm sure has been put together. The second menu is on the energy side itself, in terms of investments or joint ventures in the dams of Pakistan. And then, of course, the new projects, whether it's mines and minerals, and there too, Rekodek is an area. The refinery, there's been talk since 2019, still maybe on the cards. Then there is the new area of agriculture, corporate farming in the country, and which could serve as a basis for food security of the UAE region, of the Middle East and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in particular. And then there is obviously the potential of Pakistanis. Saudis are building a new vision. They are building new cities. So we have, I think, about 2.8 million Pakistanis there. So we can have more white collar and blue collar, labor there, to help in our remittances and, give employment to the youth of Pakistan. And then, of course, there is this area of IT and ITES, as Saudi Arabia becomes more tech oriented, in terms of medical, especially, and others. Can Pakistani boys and girls, help there? Of course, we don't have that kind of quality human resource in this area, but whatever we have, can that be helpful? So I think that's the menu. For me, that's important that we pitch ourselves in a different manner. But for me, what's also very, very important is that, this process has been going on for some time. So, different figures have come in. I'm not so interested in the figures, whether it's 5 billion, 25 billion. What I'm now interested is that they've seen our pitch, they've seen our, and it's not that they are not aware of what's here. They've seen the framework of SIFC, which can kind of take a more whole of government or intergovernmental approach, which helps clarify, which helps clear the administrative hurdles in the country. So now is the time to somehow come up in the next weeks rather than months on an implementation framework. I think now again moving to an MOU, which I hear is one way. Maybe that's the way to do it. But I now want to see some implementation framework. What that means, in my opinion, is what are the timelines of the investments? What are the sectors? Because today, even the foreign minister said we've seen a broad array of areas. So, what are those areas that they finally want to be interested in? And then, what are the timelines of investment that they see? What are the kind of agreements that we'll be doing? Where are these jurisdictions going to be, in Pakistan or International Court of Justice? What employment opportunities are there? And most of all, for me, what are the employment and export opportunities that we can create? Because FDI is good for nations, which creates technological transfer, employment, but most of all, exports. Umar, the reason I say this is that, FDI coming into a country also takes repatriation and profits in the ensuing years. We
True.
never should forget that fact. So we don't want to fall in an area where they invest in something local and then it's sold locally, but the profits are taken abroad. We don't have that kind of funding. So I really want to see all these areas. And on my last comment here is that this is a weak link in Pakistan and in the developing world. The leaderships, the establishment always want to engage with the foreign world to do this. But when it comes to creating the implementation networks to do all this, because the technocracy always remains amiss in these kinds of developing world, because the space is little. So we in the privatization commission, in the BOI, we are unable to put that package together, which takes the MOUs, the agreements into actual, on the ground move in the next few years. I really hope we can overcome this.
Inshallah, we will, because I think there's a speedy development as far as that is concerned. Now, speaking of economy, Dr. Khaqan, whether it be during the meeting with the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif or with the President Asif Ali Zardari, one key aspect of the discussions was economy. And I'd like to refer to what the Prime Minister said during his meeting, as per the official statement that was taken out, that both sides needed to work closely to, quote unquote, expedite the first phase of Saudi investments in Pakistan under this new arrangement. And of course, I think he's referring to the SIFC when he talks about this new arrangement, because he also highlighted the SIFC and the initiatives to promote investment in Pakistan. Which brings me to the fact of bridging SIFC with new economic incentives and initiatives. You talk of implementation. How important will be the role of the SIFC as far as the implementation is concerned, and also for investor confidence, whether it be from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia or from other countries that want to see whatever they invest in Pakistan turn out into proper dividends?
So, Umar, an anchoring role. I mean, undoubtedly, if you look at the SIFC composition, and this is how I think about the SIFC, it's a whole of government approach. It's an approach where coordination becomes easier because implementation is a matter of good coordination. The provinces are there, establishment, civil and military bureaucracy, political leadership, everyone's present there. And then, Umar, you always have to remember that the decisions under the SIFC are not challenged in the court of law in terms of NAB. So that really helps, because then the inertia that is there in our departments, divisions can be broken, and people can take a call on things, take the decisions forward. So the role of SIFC to make all this very successful is going to be, I think, an anchoring role. And of course, it also is a continuity from the PDM to caretaker to the present PMLN government. So let's hope that they are able to do this all. Take the onus, the responsibility is huge on the shoulders of the people who are working through the SIFC. And they've tried to make this effort to make a pitch for investment into Pakistan, and at least create a narrative beyond the debts and multilateral engagement, to an engagement with the countries, which shows that Pakistan is not is rich in brownfield projects that it wants to offload, is also rich in kind of new areas where we can do work. Pakistan's weak investment to GDP ratio at under 14% needs to be taken up to 15, 20, 25 in the coming years, because all the countries that have done well in East Asia and China have had these kinds of ratios. So yes, SIFC is very important, and then there are a number of committees, and I'm sure from approvals to implementation, all these things can be taken forward. But again, I keep saying this, and having worked with the government, what I still think is that you need to put some folks together in the ministries which can do the changes which are very very necessary, especially on the energy side. I mean, setting up of the dams is very important, but then you need to carry that electricity to the people of Pakistan or to the industries of Pakistan. And if you have line losses of the kind you have, so you really need to start thinking in a very very connected manners. You have to connect all the dots if you have to make Pakistan an investment destination. And that also means having airports which work well, having services which work well. So I'm really hoping that all this thought is being put together. And now is the time to you've pitched is to also show that what you've done in these areas, ease of doing business, removing hurdles in doing business, bringing the cost of doing business to rise, at least to the extent that is manageable. All these things become very important. So the menu on the table of SIFC is huge. The work in front of them is huge. The work in coordination, implementation, and getting all these thoughts together, and then having the professional set of people to do all this. It's a huge task. I don't want to say 4 years from today, which I'm saying that in 2019 His Royal Highness Prince was in Pakistan, and the Crown Prince said we will do a refinery. In 2024, Omar, we are still saying we want to get Saudi investment. I really hope when I talk to you from wherever in the world I am in 2028, I don't say the same thing. With
I
all
don't
my
think this is
heart.
going to happen, Dr. Khaqan, because the fact is that we see the investment friendly relations as far as Pakistan is concerned. The ease of doing business is slowly creeping in as far as Pakistani markets is concerned. The role of the SIFC is very paramount as far as that is concerned. And when you see that these delegations are coming from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and they are very interested in moving forward as far as the tangent of relations, especially in the field of economy or agriculture, mining, IT, and so many other sectors that are extremely important for both countries to work on and to delve on. I think this is going to be a new phase. This is what I personally feel. Of course, there are question marks. Of course, there are certain issues that might be confronted with, but I think together with this resolve that we are currently seeing within the government circles, and I understand your concerns as well, and I hope that those concerns will also be dealt with in the immediate future, and that the Pakistan will move forward, because it needs all the help in the economic on the economic front. It needs help of its brotherly friendly countries like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, like it is showing in this delegation that is coming. Speaking again of FDI, because you were highlighting that in one of the questions that we were discussing, the role of the FDI in various sectors becomes paramount, whether it be agriculture, mining, or energy sector. How important do you feel that could be as far as the FDI from the kingdom is concerned? We have a huge Pakistani diaspora there working in different fields. This said, I would also like to add to that the Saudi Foreign Minister's comment while he was talking in a joint media stakeout. He said his visit is to yield benefits in the next few months. What are you expecting in the next few months?
I'm expecting that we'd keep pitching Pakistan, and we'd put one thing on the map, that we have been able to close a deal. Really, I don't even worry too much about if it's in hundreds of millions of dollars, even if it's not $1 billion deal. That itself says that we can close something. You when you work in the private sector, when you work in a more dynamic setting, the end game, Omar, is that can I close the deal? That is what puts a stamp of approval in terms of Pakistan being able to pitch, frame, uh, implementation framework, close the deal, and get moving. That would be very, very important. I really hope in the next 3 to 6 months, let's say, we're able to do so. At the same time, we keep talking to the multilaterals, we keep the flows so that the repatriation that has to take place keeps happening in the country. I hope that the government has said PIA by June. Let's hope that PIA is by June. It's an ambitious target. I really hope the government has said we are moving on the airports. Let's hope that that movement is there. So I want to see some progress on terms of the closing of some of these, because my heart is with Pakistan, and I want to pitch to the world that we have actually now closed a deal. In the investment domain, it's the closing which matters. All the work, all the hard work, all the midnight oil that you burn at night matters a lot, but it's the deal closing which matters. And in Pakistan's case, since we've not had a good privatization or a big investment into the country for some years now, and FDI stays at $1.5 to $2 billion a year for the past many years, this would mark Pakistan's kind of birth into an investment arena, which I really want to see.
All right. Finally, apart from the avenues that have been highlighted during the different media talks or the visit between the two sides, and of course whether it be agriculture, whether it be mining, whether it be the IT sector, how about other sectors that are equally important, such as tourism, such as other sectors that could also be looked upon in the coming months if this first set of Saudi investment in Pakistan goes in the right direction?
Surely. So that's why, going in the right direction, your words are extremely important. Would then mark that, you want to build hotels in the areas, come build hotels, because we have the most beautiful north. Our mountains are as beautiful as anywhere in the world. So, our valleys are as beautiful as anywhere in the world. So then you start pitching, those areas which are more soft or more fluid, and people would come themselves. You ease the visa restrictions, or visa, whole domain can be changed. So then you start doing the softy areas as well. So yes, let's hope that the hard deal, the hard infrastructure sale, and then Pakistan moving on to do the soft ones as we've talked about, and also taking the sectors more broadly, and broadening our area of interest. I really hope all this becomes possible.
And of course, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has the Vision 2030 to look on towards as well, and Pakistan could maybe gain a few examples from the way the Kingdom has been moving forward as far as its Vision 2030 is concerned. So let's hope for the best. We have our concerns. I can understand what you're trying to say, but I'd like to see the glass half full, and I like to see a lot of positive developments emanating after the visit of this delegation, with promises, with MOUs, with agreements that will be finalized in the coming months, as the Saudi Foreign Minister said. Thank you so very much, Dr. Khaqan Najeeb, to have joined us, to have talked to us. Inshallah, we will see a bright Pakistani economy flourishing in the next coming months and years, thanks to the investment by the King of Saudi Arabia and other friendly countries. Let's come to our second story, and that concerns day 193 of the Israel-Palestine war, the conflict, the genocide, the ethnic cleansing. Another new aspect adds to it, and that is the tensions in the Middle East, with the strikes by Iran, and of course Israel saying that it is going to retaliate as a result of that. There has been an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council in which there has been tit for tat between the two sides, that is Israel and Iran. On the other hand, there are many countries in the West also that are asking Israel to restrain itself as far as its response is concerned. What kind of response will it be? This is only time will tell. We are hearing a lot of rumors. The rumor mill is of course afresh with different kinds of stories that are coming up, but that only we will know in the next few days as to what Israel's intention actually is. We've been joined by Javed Siddique Saab. He's a senior analyst and joins us in the studio. Javed Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. The Israeli army chief Monday vows a response to Iran's attack against the country, which he has prompted appeals for de-escalation by world leaders that are fearing wider conflict. I'll quote what he said. He said the launch of so many missiles, cruise missiles, UAVs into the territory of the State of Israel will be met with a response. What kind of response should we expect? Isn't that the big question mark that is on everybody's mind?
Well, I think, yes, you have quoted from the Israeli official that we are going to respond to the Iranian attack. 300 plus drones were sent there, in the Israeli territory, and they hit the targets. But at the same time, I think the response to Iranian attack, what kind of response it would be, everybody is guessing about it. Some of the analysts, military analysts, are saying that they could attack some of the ships maybe in the area which are owned by Iran and are being used. For instance, some of the ships, Iranian ships, are helping the Houthis to launch attacks against the Western ships and Western interests. So I think that could be one possible response by Israel. Direct attack on Iran will escalate this war, and that is not advisable. And even the closest of the Israeli ally, the United States of America, has said that it is not going to support Israel if it attacks Iran, and they are distancing themselves from Israel. So even other countries, European countries like UK, Germany, France and others, they have also asked Israel
to exercise restraint,
to exercise restraint and not to escalate the war, because that could lead to a huge escalation in the region, and so many other countries could be sucked into this war, and that will have a devastating effect on the global economy, on the regional stability and all that. So I think as far as the Israelis are concerned, the Prime Minister Netanyahu called a meeting of the cabinet, and the cabinet meeting has given green signal to the government and the army to go ahead for a response. So that response is being contemplated by the Israeli authorities, but it is not clear whether Israel will attack some of the interests of Iran in the region, or they are going to launch a direct attack on Iran. One reason why Israelis want to retaliate is that Iran has basically injured and hurt their pride, because the Israelis have been claiming that they are the superpower of the region in terms of the military strength, and their defense is impregnable. And that myth has been exploded by the Iranian attack on Israel. So their pride is hurt, and also they want to establish their supremacy in the region, that they are a big regional power, and for that reason they could strike some of the interests of Iran. But they have to think twice about it, because the most ally of the allies of Israel, US and Western countries, are not supporting Israel in a retaliatory action.
All right. Now, my next question is two-pronged. On the one hand, they say that they are going to have a retaliatory action against Iran. But all this escalation, do you feel that Benjamin Netanyahu or his war cabinet are going to use this as a side ploy and continue with their offensive in Palestine, in Rafah and elsewhere? Because we know the destruction that is happening, we know the deaths that are also occurring, we know the casualties with every passing hour. The Israeli military says that it will not be distracted from its war in Gaza, but the UN also cites reports of airstrikes, shelling and heavy fighting in the past 5 days along the Nuseirat refugee camp in the central Gaza city of Deir al-Balah. Do you think this means that we are going to see more death and destruction in Palestine while Israel will continue, hammering its offensive as far as Iran is concerned?
Yes, I think the saber rattling by Israel will continue. But their main focus, as you have rightly pointed out, and they have also said that they are not going to be distracted by this attack, and therefore their main focus is Gaza, and they want to basically destroy Hamas and other forces who could challenge Israel in future, because the way Hamas started this war and attack on Israel is unprecedented in the history of Arab-Israel relationship. Never before Israel was attacked the way Hamas has attacked it, and they have suffered huge casualties at the hands of the Hamas fighters. So therefore their focus will be there. During this entire conflict or this genocidal war by Israel, they have focused to basically capture more lands of Palestinians, and they have been able to settle more illegitimate settlements in the areas, in the land that they have captured.
But that is what the aim has always been, to garner as much of land as possible in Gaza, and then to transform that into legal settlements for the Israelis.
So they are working on, and they are basically proceeding forward on their greater Israel plan by grabbing more land, and that is their major objective. So, the distraction was basically the attack of Iran, but basically Israel is responsible for that because they attacked the consulate, Iranian consulate in Damascus, killing 2 generals of ICRG. So, I think Iran had to retaliate. Iran too was hurt because they thought that 2 of
and under the Geneva Convention, you cannot attack either a consulate or an embassy.
Exactly. So, I think Iran was justified to attack Israeli forces or targets inside Israel. But as I've said earlier, that Israelis are now their pride has been hurt and injured, and therefore they will try to do something to basically demonstrate to the world and to the Arab world particularly, or Iran as well, that they are capable of defending their interests, and they think that they are the superpower of the region militarily and otherwise, and well, who could dare to attack basically Israel inside their territory. There has been a long history of threats and counter threats by Iran and Israel both, because Iran has been planning to attack Israel for a long time. And similarly,
but this is the first time since 1979 that there has been a direct attack from Iran onto Israel.
And Israelis too, they have been urging US and other countries to attack Israel, and particularly at Iran, and particularly their nuclear program has been the prime target of Israel, and they've always scared and they're always feared that Iran could possibly use the nuclear nuclear assets against it. But that is a remote possibility. But you know, the Israelis have been raising this slogan, raising this bogey, that Iran's nuclear program is aimed at destabilizing the region, aimed at destroying Israel, aimed at basically attacking Israel. So that has been the slogan they have been mongering for a long period of time. But actually, the Israelis have tried to give this message to Iran that because Iran was basically present in Damascus and elsewhere in the region, in Yemen also, and Iranian proxies are at operating there. So therefore, Israel was thinking that whatever damage is being done to them by Houthis and by Hamas and other forces in the area, they are being backed by Iran. So finally, they decided to hit and target their consulate in Damascus. But they could never expect that Iran would directly attack Israel.
Now, Javed Sahab, speaking of Iran's attack, I'd like to refer to a quote on Twitter or X. Now, Tehran says its missile and drone barrage against Israel is just the first act of a tough new strategy. The Iranian president's political deputy Mohammad Jamshidi writes on X, and I quote, that the era of strategic patience is over.
Yes.
And that further targeting Iranian personnel and assets will be met with a direct and punishing response. Tehran said it considered the matter concluded unless Israel chose to commit another mistake, quote unquote. How do you view these comments?
I think they have warned Israel that if it chooses to hit any Iranian interest or attack directly inside Iran, there will be a severe reaction to it, and Israel will be heavily punished for that. So I think the stakes are very high, and Israel, as it is being urged by the United States, by UN, and some of the Western allies of Israel, they are urging and putting a lot of pressure on Tel Aviv not to retaliate to Iranian attack. And Iran has also made it clear that from their perspective, whatever they have done, it is concluded. They don't want to go beyond that. They don't want to attack, launch another attack on Israel or its interests. So I think the matter is that both sides have attacked each other, and now the matter is over. Iran has...
Is it? I mean, that is the question. Is the matter over, or are we going to see some more escalation?
If Israel again attacks Iran,
will the reaction by Iran be stronger?
The war.
Yes. And that will engulf more than these two countries and the region and the Middle East as well. Now, US officials have urged caution in Israel, just like you have said. I like to, whether it be the Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, who says we don't seek escalation, whether it be US President Joe Biden, who has told Netanyahu that Washington will not offer military support for any retaliation against Iran, whether it be at the White House, where Joe Biden met with Iraq's Prime Minister and said that we are committed to a ceasefire that will bring the hostages home and prevent the conflict spreading from what it already has. Then the National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby, who says on NBC's Meet the Press that the US doesn't want the escalation. Also, the Deputy US Ambassador Robert Wood says we have a collective responsibility as members of the Security Council to ensure that Iran complies with the Council's resolutions, which of course Israel has never complied with. We all know the past of Israel as well. What do you think is going to be the extent of US involvement if this war escalates, and will it be able to curtail Israel in due time? What's your take on that?
I think US has warned Israel of escalation of war and the consequences of that, because US interests in the region are also at stake. Also, US is trying to gain the confidence of its regional allies like Saudi Arabia and other countries in the region. They are also exercising restraint and urging both sides to exercise restraint. And the Saudi foreign minister is on a visit to Pakistan, and in a joint press conference with our foreign minister, he has said that we don't want escalation of war in the region. And that is the stance of the other Arab countries as well. So I think the
who wants escalation of a conflict, Javed sahab, to be very frank, when we already are seeing an increase in what is happening in Palestine by Israel, when we already see the repercussions, the slow repercussions that we are seeing in Damascus, that we have seen in others, and now this escalation that we are seeing. Nobody wants an escalation. Everybody wants to live in peace and foster friendly relations.
It has its economic effect as well. The oil prices have gone up, and the entire world is affected by that. So I think all the countries in the region and beyond, they are urging both sides to exercise restraint and not to escalate, and try to de-escalate the situation. That is the need of the hour. And also, US, UN and other countries have been working very hard to basically de-escalate the situation and finally go for a ceasefire. And that has been the call.
But that is also a question that has remained on the mind of so many. Which ceasefire? It was to happen in the beginning of the holy month of Ramadan. The whole month of Ramadan ended, the Eid happened, and nothing as far as ceasefire.
I think Israel is responsible for that, because Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has been, in response to the appeals made to him by the US, the Western allies, that there should be an immediate ceasefire, and these attacks should stop immediately. The killing of innocent people must be stopped immediately. But Israel never ever paid any heed to these appeals. Israel never responded positively to this. So I think Israel is primarily responsible for this Iranian attack, as well as the sentiments of the Muslims of the entire world. They are whipping up because of these constant attacks, constant genocide of the people of Palestine, men, women, and old people. And about 35,000 Palestinians have been killed, and almost close to
almost 34,000.
34,000. And similarly,
but more than 75,000 have been injured. If you have a collective thing, it exceeds 100,000. And then these are just numbers that we know of. There are so many people who are still buried under the rubble. The women and children that have been affected.
And they have disappeared.
The psychological effects of that on the women and children. The health effects, because there is a lack of health facilities. The food, water effects.
Because the Israelis are not sparing the hospitals,
yes,
ambulances, schools, mosques. And
they are not even sparing the charity organizations.
Exactly. So I think primarily it is Israel's mistake, and gigantic mistake, to not exercising restraint and bringing the hostilities to a stop.
All right, you talk of restraint and de-escalation. Now, you talked of also countries like United Kingdom, Germany, Italy and France who have also called for de-escalation in this whole wake of the Iranian strikes. US President also has said on Monday he wants to prevent the Middle East conflict from spreading, but he has vowed to defend Israel after Iran launched this attack on its key ally. What the US President also said, he was committed to the security of our personnel and partners in the region. How can the West and the other regional countries balance out de-escalation with helping Israel, militarily and otherwise?
I think if a strong message is given to Tel Aviv and Netanyahu that they mean business, that seriously they do not want escalation, they do not want Israel to continue its hostile attitude and its aggressive military campaign against innocent Palestinians. And by doing that, if Israel brings down or basically takes action, visible actions to stop this war against innocent Palestinians and stops killing children and women and the people injured in this war, and that will send a great signal. But every day, without any fail, they are attacking the innocent people, the refugee camps, hospitals, and the ambulances and everything else. So I think their attitude is not changing, their policy is not changing, and very, very strong and belligerent statements are emanating from Tel Aviv, and particularly the Prime Minister of Israel, who is being condemned by his own people even. There are demonstrations against Netanyahu even in Israel, and they are also demanding that this war must come to an end because they have lost, the Israelis have lost a lot of their relatives, their and their soldiers and citizens, and they have been taken hostage by Hamas, and they also are worried about it. But Netanyahu's intransigent policies towards this war are basically escalating the situation, and there is no indication that Israeli Prime Minister and his cabinet will give up this aggressive attitude and stop the war.
Now, Javed, a final question. In the wake of all of this, what happens to any negotiations as far as the ceasefire deal or a truce is concerned? John Kirby, who's the White House National Security Council spokesperson, has stressed that negotiations between Israel and Palestine on a truce in Gaza and hostage deal are still underway, quote unquote. We are not considering diplomacy dead there. He also said CIA Director Bill Burns had negotiated a new deal in Cairo about a week ago that would get a lot of people, the wounded, the women, the elderly out and give us a 6-week ceasefire, quote unquote. Can a peace deal still happen?
I think yes, because the entire world is unison, in unison, and the entire world is asking Israel to put an end to this war and basically create an atmosphere for a ceasefire. Israel and the negotiations have been going on. We all know they were held in Doha, in Cairo, and elsewhere also. And there were intense negotiations, behind the scene negotiations, in which Israel sometimes moved forward and said, yes, we are ready to release the prisoners, we are ready to exercise restraint, but then they went back on that. So I think Israel's responsibility is to stop this aggression, to stop this genocidal war against the innocent Palestinians.
And go for a ceasefire. No, we start with a ceasefire, then we go with negotiations and we see if there's two-state solution is viable, how viable is it, and how soon can it be implemented. I think this is the way to move forward before such escalation moves to such a space and to such a level that there will be no moving back from it. Thank you very much, Javed Siddique sahab, to have joined us, to have talked to us about this very, very important situation that is the escalation in the Middle East as far as Iran and Israel is concerned, and all because of of this conflict between Palestine and Israel. Let's come to our last two stories very, very quickly. Kindly stay with us for 2 minutes, sir. First is about Prince Harry, who has lost his bid to appeal on the British security ruling. Now, the Prince Harry of the United Kingdom, the youngest son of King Charles III, will not be allowed to appeal the downgrading of his personal security when he visits Britain, the United Kingdom, anytime in the future. This has been ruled by a court on Monday. He had took action in the year 2020 when he had been told that he will no longer be given the same degree of publicly funded protection when he is in the United Kingdom. High Court judge Peter Lane has also said in a 52-page statement that the bespoke process devised for him by a committee which is under the remit of the Interior Ministry was and is still legally sound. Prince Harry had told a hearing at London's High Court in December that security concerns were preventing visits back to Britain. We all remember what happened to Princess Diana as well in 1997. Anyways, I can understand the concern, but this is how the British have ruled as far as their courts are concerned. Finally, NASA is seeking faster, cheaper ways to bring Mars rocks to Earth, and this is to study microbial life there. What kind of life could be there? Is it still there? Was there any life in the past as well? Now, but the fact is that all of this is tending to become extremely expensive, and that is why NASA said on Monday that it was looking for ways to bring these rocks collected by the Perseverance rover. These have already been collected, they just need to be brought back. And he said they are looking at alternative ways to bring those rocks back to Earth in a way that will be more cost effective for NASA. Because in all of this, there's also the efforts that are being made by China, which has made a lot of progress towards a simpler grab-and-go sample return mission to the Red Planet around 2030, which means that if the US or other countries are not able to bring back those rocks, China will be the first to make headway as far as that is concerned. The outside experts have also found that the overall cost could potentially balloon to $11 billion US, nearly double what NASA has expected, and that is what, under the current circumstances, NASA cannot be given that due funding. Let's see what happens, whether NASA will be the first or whether it will be China. Only time will tell. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.